eons have they slumbered. Stars have wheeled through the heavens, and empires have risen and fallen to dust. Yet all things have their time. Amidst the flames and madness of the galaxy's death throes, so theirs has come again. Inquisition File Reference 92679/N/SK. Ordo, Xenos. File Accept Xload, Classified. Inquisitor ID. Error. From the word of the Holy Inquisition. The Necrons have existed within the galaxy for eons, shackled to their former title as the Necrontier, as flesh and blood. They sold their souls in a gambit for immortal life. For any foe, the Necrons represent the incarnation of death. They represent the terror of unmatched technology, ferocity, and an arrogance so profound it permeates the entire species. The Necrons should have long rotted, but pervade the galaxy as indomitable android revenants who rise from worlds that hide their technological hibernation. They march forth from their crypts and amongst innumerable gleaming lumen to bring the anguish of tragedy upon their foes. As the Necron awake, they see only the pervasive presence of ignorant savages, upstarts, and beasts. It is thus the remit of the Necron to annihilate these interlopers for the true heralds of the galaxy to rise again. Once, in the time of the old gods, 60 million years ago, the Necron may have achieved this goal. United in their vengeance, lust for power, and of an unmatched unity, they were the architects of galactic dominion. Yet, with the advent of eons of stasis, the entropy of time has found its way into the source code of many dynasties and their pharaon, corrupting their minds alongside the machinations of a changing galaxy which has brought degradation to their worlds. In the 41st millennium, the Necron that arise are an altogether different race. Scattered dynasties all lay claim to the stars, believing themselves entitled to that mantle of responsibility, to enact the dominion as the true masters of the galaxy. This insanity takes hold in many dynasties, twisting their number into a dark reflection of their former glory. Yet, the Necron may soon reclaim what was once theirs, as the fury of the Necron is as boundless as is the tragedy of their fall, and it is not for the Necron to fade silently into the long night. Inquisitor's Log. Designation: Ordo Xenos. Subject: the Necrons. The study of the heretical technologies of the Xenos filth has long held the attention of the priests of Mars. While the Treaty of Mars does permit their independence in such matters, the dangers of unearthing these technologies has long been illustrated. The light of the Emperor has never reached their number, and they show a ferocity matched only by their arrogance. It is undeniable, however, that their technology is a grave concern to the Imperium at large, and the unearthing of further tomb worlds is of equal disquiet. As I delve further into the archives, the folly of this technological ascension is only more clear. If these constructs were once biological, I shudder to think of what may have possessed their masters to forgo their souls in some mad lust for power. Inquisitor Audio Reference File. Transfer accepted. Bypass of engrammatic memory. From the word of Trazyn the Infinite. We must not let the relics of antiquity be broken and crushed by the savagery of unenlightened creatures, for only by understanding these treasures may we conquer the future. Only we, who have broken free from the shackles of mortality and bound the infinite majesty of the cosmos to our will, can be trusted with this task. That is why we are here, on this wretched pit of a planet. Eliminate these mortals as you see fit, but do try to keep the collateral damage to a minimum. Let us gaze into the prismatic galleries and learn what the orrery can teach us. Our peoples who use the infinite understanding of time immemorial to guide our steps into the vastness of future's shadow. This history of the void is an open book to me, and my collection is the story of everything. Hyperscroll message from Trazyn the Infinite, addressed to Inquisitor Helena Valeria, circa 805.m 41. Gallery 3, The War in Heaven. It was during the last days of the war in heaven that the doom of the Ingir came upon them. It was not a sudden thing, this storm whose wrath was to break upon the elder deities, whose violence was to enfold them, shatter them into broken shards, and cast them evermore into shackles beneath the lowliest of things. Perhaps if they had been more watchful, the gods would have seen and halted what came next, while the storm still gathered, while the winds of fate were rising. Perhaps they would have remained divine. Yet we, of the tribes of Eldanesh and Ulthanash, we know better than any how pride may lay even gods low. Extract from the Book of Mournful Night, the dirge of stars extinguished. In eons past, it was the Necron tier, not the Necron who lived. Flesh and blood, they toiled under the gale of a harsh sun. A race of both impermanence and warmongering, their culture was infatuated with death and thus immortality. A people of unmatched technological acumen and interstellar travel, the pervasiveness of their time under this solar field had left their people frail and short-lived. The Necron tier knew war and fractured into dynasties that experienced constant conflict. In the search of unity, the rulers of the Necrons sought immortality and united their people in this search. This brought the Necron tier to beings known as the Old Ones. Unparalleled in their psychic might, but also their genecraft, the Necron tier initially went to the Old Ones in peaceful requisition. For reasons lost to the ages, they declined. Whether it was that the Old Ones saw the arrogance and moral decay of the Necron tier, or were simply unwilling to part with this knowledge, the Old Ones would not relent. Thus, the war in heaven began, a war for the very secrets of immortality. But the Necrons could never win by strength of arms alone. If cogent details of this war in heaven still exist, they do so only in the memories within the Necrons themselves. Eldari lore does suggest that the Old Ones were the creators of the webway, the arterial network of ethereal tunnels that still span the interstices between the warp and real space. Through this and other technological advantage, the Old Ones drove the Necron tier back on every front. It was in the Necron tier's darkest hour, where all hope for survival was lost, during the reign of Zarek, last of the Silent Kings, that the Catan, those also known as the Ingir, came before the Necron tier with an offer of aid. Legends speak of ancient star gods, beings formed from the fundamental energies of the universe, who offered Zarek and his people all that they had ever desired: power and immortality. All it would cost was for the Necron tier to ally themselves with the Catan, to destroy the hated Old Ones forever. And so, the trap was sprung upon the Silent King. He would damn the Necron tier, and in so doing, the Necron were born. Biotransference followed, with this process creating a neurologic translation that would upload the consciousness of each and every Necron tier into sentient metal bodies. They would lose their spiritual autonomy and their souls devoured by the ravenous Catan. For all but the nobility of the Necron people would lose their power to choose, their minds, and their individuality. This would be consumed in a treacherous grasp for power, with their free will obliterated. Zarek would, however, save his people, gaining total control through unbreakable command protocols. Unity, but with the cost of absolution, for he too was subservient to higher masters. War followed, and the Necrons, with the aid of the Catan, made war with renewed fervor. For a time, the Necrons and their Catan masters conquered and wrought vengeance upon the stars. But the Old Ones had mastered many sciences, including that of creating entire races. The Old Ones, in their wisdom, created two races to turn the tide. The Eldari, master psychers with an innate connection to the warp, and the Orcs, whose bloodlust and fury were matched only by their fungal spore-like ability to replicate. And so, at the end, with the defeat of the Old Ones, when the Catan were at their weakest following that titanic conflict, the Necrons took their revenge and shattered the duplicitous star gods. Zarek saw, though, that his people's time was done, for they could not face the Old One's vengeful servants, the Eldari chief among them. It is told that the Silent King commanded his people to enter themselves within the stasis crypts of their tomb cities, there to sleep out the eons until they could rise again to conquer all. Finally destroying his command protocols and freeing his race, Zarek took his ship into the intergalactic void to seek whatever solace he might amongst the empty darkness. Gallery 16, The Great Sleep and the Awakening. Engrammatic memory, Altix, twice dead king, and Farron of the Ithaca's dynasty. His skin was touching nothing as he sank. The baroreceptors, searching for his blood pressure, found only the searing touch of radioactive gas. His stomach had been empty for eons, and was burning with the sure knowledge he had starved 10,000 times over. His heart was not beating. His blood had gone still, and his organs were failing, cells dying by the billion as they choked on their own waste. He could feel the brain he did not have, desperately begging for oxygen as its tissues began to blacken. His phantom lungs were flat and stiff as leather discs inside his chest, and they would not inflate. He needed to breathe. He needed to, or he was going to die. He clawed at his own throat, desperate to clear the obstruction. But there was nothing there but solid metal. His hard fingers scrabbled against his face, but there was no mouth, no nostrils. His whole form was solid and sealed, with no way to inhale. None of his phantom parts could do anything to save themselves, but neither could they collapse because they did not exist. They would be trapped here forever, in the lurid, blinding urgency at death's edge. Eventually, as he continued to fall, Altix ceased to be Necron. His perspective flipped, and the reality of the abandoned brain vestige became his own. He was no longer a construct burdened with a malfunctioning scrap of transcribed biology, but a creature of living flesh that had suddenly been punctured by cold metal in every part of itself at once. Now, the remains of his mortal body were flensed away, strip by strip, until there was nothing left except rough iron bones, cradling a cold green star where there should have been a heart. Even once the Seraptech passed, the procession continued. There must have been 100 or more in the Juggernaut's wake, oculars gleaming with mad fervor as they stretched their hands out towards their idol. Altix took the gesture for veneration at first, until he noticed the meat. With every shuddering footfall, a few gobbets of carrion slipped loose from the Canoptek's thorn grove, as rot-weakened sinews finally gave way to gravity. As the morsels fell, the following nobles scrambled to catch them, compressing into a seething crowd at the aft of the construct, when a green-grey human torso slipped over the edge, thumping wetly onto the stone path. Altix watched a knot of 24 lords form around it, screeching and fighting like beasts to be first to the meal. And even as they feasted, or as they thought themselves to feast, he corrected himself. With a chill through his flux, they screamed their litany of praise. 60 million years, technological hibernation, the Great Sleep. The eldritch technologies involved in this period are pure sorcery to all but the most learned within the Imperium. Command and control programs of almost sentient-level intellect control this process, alongside legions of Canoptek slave constructs that act as eternal guardians of Necron tombs. Despite the level of technological prowess of both the infrastructure and software watching over these worlds, the entropy of passing eons cannot be denied. Tomb worlds face manifold threats: raids by lesser races, pitiful curiosity by ignorant so-called scientists of the Mechanicus, or purges by the most hated Eldari. Stellar and cosmic warp storms may also bring catastrophe to these stasis crypts. Even those worlds that survive have ended up far from their original positions, scattering the dynastic territories of old and leaving the Necrons fragmented and factionalized. The chronostats of many tomb worlds slipped due to mechanical failure or empiric distortion. Thus, Rather than rising as one great race across the galaxy, the Necrons have woken haphazardly. Some emerged during the Emperor of Mankind's Great Crusade, whilst others slumber still. This process has not been without consequence, as corruption has seeped into countless Necron minds, either during the unimaginable span of ages spent entombed in silence, or amid the slow, disquieting agony of revivification. For many, awakening brings not clarity, but ruin. Some are claimed by a hollow, nihilistic madness. Others rise only to exist in a state of mindless stupor, their once great consciousness reduced to little more than a flickering echo. In others, the personality engrams that once defined them have been fractured, twisted, or rendered entirely inert, leaving behind shells that remember how to obey their masters, but no longer why. And yet, despite this decay, the awakening continues. Billions of Necrons have already risen from their tombs, while trillions more remain locked in stasis, waiting in cold patience for the command to stir. Their noble rulers have not been spared the ravages of time, as many overlords have fallen into varying degrees of derangement, their thoughts fragmented or obsession-bound. Yet even in madness, their ancient arrogance endures. Their sense of superiority has not dulled, nor has their hunger for dominion faded. Each overlord pursues their own inscrutable designs, driven by pride, vengeance, or fractured memory. To the younger races, Necron actions often appear erratic or even senseless. Wars begun without warning, worlds erased without discernible reason. But beneath this seeming chaos lies a shared purpose, buried deep within their immortal cores. However distorted their minds may be, most remain bound to the same cold ambition, to reclaim the stars they once ruled, to scour the galaxy of interlopers, and to restore the Necron Empire to the terrible glory it possessed when the universe was young, and the Necrons were its unquestioned masters. Inquisitor's Log. Designation: Ordo Xenos. Subject: Stasis Crypts and the Great Sleep. I am struck by similarity. These Xenos, for all their heretical technology and the blight they cast over the galaxy, show signs akin to the Great Crusade. A mighty ruler, a terrible foe, and a purpose distorted by the entropy of time. If I were a scholar of their people, if one may call them so, I would lament a great tragedy, a unity distorted, in fighting, the passing of eons and a people, if united, that could dominate the galaxy. The Necron in their stasis crypts, technological form and enviable weaponry undoubtedly are one of the greatest threats to the Imperium. The Mechanicus forever delves too deep, plundering these tombs in search of archaeo-technological wonders. Constant warp travel to new sites further illustrates this tale. The loss of a people united in a goal seeking immortality, but forever shackled. First to mortality, then to subservience. We of the Imperium must break the shackles of ignorance, but I fear, just as with the Necron, that the entropy of time may have claimed us too. Gallery 18, Exhibit 12. Tomb Worlds, Cryptograph verified. Zarek foresaw the calamity of the Necron people. Decimated by their war with the Old Ones, he knew that they could not survive the coming of the Eldari Empire, the Orc menace, and so commanded the Necron to sleep. They would enter their millennial torpor as Necron cities were transfigured for the purpose of eons of stasis. These technological transformations would see his people defended, prepared, and ready to rise after this ordeal. Despite this, the cosmic force of the universe resists stagnation, and the eons have not been kind. In the eons that followed, tomb worlds have been exposed to countless threats. From cosmic phenomena, explosive death of stars, asteroid strikes, and the delving of lesser races, tomb worlds face myriad threats, some exposed to the decay of biosphere, irradiation, gravitic forces, and energy storms. Many tomb worlds now exist on worlds antithetical to organic life, These conditions often are of little consequence to the Necron, their mastery of technology and command over real space unparalleled. Their android bodies require none of the fundamentals that organic life requires. It has often been the case that the Necron benefited from such conditions. Just as often, Necron tomb worlds lie beneath thriving biospheres, which see calamity when the tomb world reactivates. The Necrons often use this flora and fauna as camouflage. While it is inevitable, though, that when the world awakens, that the Necron would conquer, harvest, and decimate all life upon such a planet's surface. Awakening legions may emerge, finding feudal societies with crops and farmsteads, to towering cityscapes, or even active war zones, where the lesser races wage war, unaware of the greater enemy that lurks beneath. When a threat to a tomb complex is judged to be severe, the master program responds without hesitation or emotion. Its first priority is revivification, as rank upon rank of Necron soldiery are drawn from stasis, alongside the awakening of dormant war engines whose weapons have waited patiently for millennia. These forces are deployed with calculated precision as the protocols send forth semi-basic commands that prioritize many core decisions, such as the defensive action of their technology. Their cold might is used to reinforce the tireless Canoptech slave constructs already patrolling the tomb's depths, forming an unyielding bulwark against intrusion. The master program fights only to preserve the integrity of the complex, expending lives and machines alike with perfect indifference. Only when the Necron nobility rise from their crypts, when overlords and pharaons reclaim conscious command, does the nature of the response change. When this occurs and the Necron reactivate and emerge, the world will be irrevocably altered. Land masses quake and gargantuan tomb cities stir beneath the surface. Colossal structures force their way upwards, sloughing off the devastated remains of the younger races amidst eruptions of magma and seething energy storms. Eerie megastructures ascend to the heavens. Ominous guardians take up watchful stations above the planet as cosmic superweapons flare to life. At the same moment, command is enacted by noble or cryptech, and swarms of canoptech constructs sweep across the planet's surface, devouring and recycling the cities and structures of younger races, as well as the life forms themselves, to raise monolithic monuments to the awakened Necron. Any trace of the inferior species is swept away as the Necrons resume rulership of what is rightfully their domain. Gallery 43, Exhibit 03, Eldritch, Technology and Weapons. I acknowledge no master, save for the almighty spectre of death. In his name, I will reap all signs of life from this galaxy, leaving nothing but a barren monument to the timeless inevitability. Call it what you will, but this is pursuit of nothing less than absolute perfection. Those who cannot understand its necessity are clearly flawed, but they should not despair. I will ensure that they do not live to see the final stage of my work completed. Executioner Ezendrak of the Mefrat dynasty. The Necrons possess technology so sophisticated that of all the inhabitants of the galaxy, only the technology of the Eldari may be of passing compare. The unifying technology of all Necron is the necrodermis and later living metal. Initially developed by the Necrontyr to travel the stars, it was later utilized by the Catan to take physical form. And then, through the nightmarish process of biotransference, the Necrontyr entombed themselves within this necrodermis forever. Beyond simple armored toughness, living metal can alter its molecular state in a semi-sentient manner, flowing and replicating to heal battle damage as it is inflicted. Just as disturbing to see are the reanimation protocols. If a Necron is disabled or destroyed in battle, a flickering nimbus of crawling energies slowly draws the Necron's construct back together. Even in a state of explosive dismemberment, the Necrons can reassemble their form, rising to shamble back to continue their sordid march. Those too badly damaged for even living metal to reanimate will vanish in flares of light, either recalled to their stasis crypts for repair or destroyed by fail-safe systems to prevent the use or study of Necron technology. Certain technological marvels exist which accelerate or augment these core regenerative processes. Resurrection orbs send out a pulse of radiation that temporarily supercharges the self-repair systems of nearby Necron soldiery, whilst the phylactery or beam of the Canoptech reanimator contains swarms of nano-scarabs that rapidly re-knit sundered Necron bodies and machinery down to the finest and most minute level. Most widespread of all Necron weapons of war is Gauss technology. From the standard Gauss flare, wielded by a Necron warrior, to the massive Gauss flux arc, all these weapons function in the same fashion. These weapons project a molecular disassembling beam that reduces flesh armor and bone to their constituent atoms, layer by layer. The Necrons also field Tesla weaponry, which releases beams of living lightning that scorches and blasts victims, and can even arc from one victim to the next. Particle weapons emit streams of minuscule antimatter particles. These detonate on contact with other matter, annihilating their targets in violent blasts. Enmitic weaponry releases thrumming pulses causing violent repulsion of atoms which, when observed, can be a truly horrific display. The Necrons may also field heavier firepower, including doomsday weapons or death rays. Doomsday weapons are plasma-based weapons that are so powerful they require entire platforms to facilitate the deployment of their destructive potential. Death rays pour immense energies through a focusing crystal, unleashing a sustained beam of searing heat and light that can carve through any matter. In close quarters, the Necrons are no less deadly where they field hyperphase weaponry wielded by their most elite warriors, such as the Skorpekh destroyers. These weapons vibrate across multiple dimensional states, allowing it to pass through almost any defense without resistance. Void blades may also be used and cause the disruption of victims' molecular bonds at the slightest touch. Staves of light serve as moth melee weaponry and a short-ranged energy propulsion device, whilst war scythes, found most commonly used by Necron nobility or their Lich Guard, and this projects ethereal energy fields around these blades. The skills of the Cryptechs are responsible for the maintenance and study of core Necron technologies. Their skills extend beyond weapons to countless other strange devices, all of which benefit the endless legions on the battlefield and within their tomb cities. They commonly employ quantum shielding, which transforms the energy of incoming firepower into harmless equivalent energy, which increase in effectiveness the more powerful the foe's weaponry. A form of this technology is the dispersion shield borne by retinues of Lich Guard. This shield includes layered energy shield generators that not only stop incoming projectiles, but may also serve to ricochet these back at the foe. The Necron commonly use teleportation technology, which employ captive wormholes that allow phalanxes to march straight to battle from the depths of the tomb city below, or even from far distant worlds. Monoliths, a gargantuan vehicle constructed from living metal, which acts as a transport craft, destroyer, and is the rallying point of Necron armies while being capable of skimming across the battlefield or descending from space, fielding potent weapons as well as bearing an eternity gate, which may be reversed to create a portal of exile, dragging in screaming foes using a version of this teleportation technology. These foes will then later be jettisoned into a purgatorial nothingness beyond reality itself. Coupled with gravitic repulsion generators, which enable anything from infantry to massive war engines to glide effortlessly with considerable speed, the Necron armies pose a level of strategic agility that at times may even rival that of the hated Eldari. It is, however, the proficiency of which the Necron Cryptechs fashion Blackstone that may be one of their greatest feats of engineering. Also known as Noctilith, the Necrons are the true masters, for they have both understood and employed it for millions of years before the younger and less enlightened races existed. Blackstone is named due to the smooth, dark deposits found in its mining. similar in appearance to onyx or obsidian. It radiates with the energies of the immaterium, and when appropriately polarized, can act to channel or repel these energies. The Necrons work Blackstone into their war engines, weapons, and into immense megaliths known as pylons. It is the cryptechs that understand the techno-arcane science best, and how to channel cosmic energy through it. When this is done, it may flare vivid colors, producing weaponized energy beams, portals, or even other effects yet to be understood or discovered. It may be in the use of null-field matrices, where it is most potent, shielding their tomb worlds from hostile psychic manifestations, and even devastating pylon arrays. Gallery 06, Exhibit 07, cryptograph signal announced. The sundering and shards of the Catan. Long the war in heaven raged. It may have come with the dawning of the first rays of the stars themselves, as the shadow that needs must be cast alongside the light. In others, it was a fire, a hungry and knowing flame that spread through the veins and arteries of the void and wrought all that it touched unto blackened ash. Insatiable was the hunger of that first and greatest war. It burned worlds, crushed them to dust in its unmerciful grip, or ground them to ruin within its cavernous maw. It left untold destruction in its wake, and through the ruin the Ingir came dancing. Had they heard the music of endless slaughter and come to bring the performance to its crescendo? Did the Necrontyr call upon them in their despair, and so invite across the threshold that which would both save and damn them? First, did Mephetran bring his offer of kinship, the deceiver singing poisoned promises from a silver-gilt tongue. To all the silent king listened and gave his blessing. Then came the days of dark sacrifice, the soul spend, the time of reapers' plenty. Then the ghost arcs prowled, the unwilling screamed for mercy, and the uncaring furnaces roared with the Ogier's voice. There was death, and there was life's cold echo. Then there came a time when the Augur walked the blood roads between the stars in manifold guises, and the glittering hordes marched upon the fastness eternal, whilst the Ingir soared on high. The labyrinth was flayed bare, its twisting ways trammelled, and its secrets turned back upon those who'd first whispered them. The old ones perished in that terrible age. The Ingir drank deep of their potent souls, and then did they blaze like darkling stars. Yet the storm was rising. Already the Banshee's vengeful keening carried upon the bloodied wings. The Augur had feasted unto satiation. The fire, still raging high and hot, had burned all that might sustain it. In their moment of surpassing triumph, the Ingir were vulnerable, for they had given much of themselves to at last cast down their age-old foes. They did not grasp the depths of loathing that their tainted gift had conjured. About them, they saw only slaves, savage and simple beings, content to feed the dying fires. They should have seen blades, each wrought from a billion pinpricks of starlight, yet no less sharp for their fractured form. They should have seen the doom they had fashioned from their own cunning cruelty. The Ingir had promised allegiance, then demanded worship. Now, they would know retribution fit to shake the stars from the heavens and cast them blazing from the skies like the tears of Isha. If the Chaos Gods are the rulers of the Immaterium, then the Catan at the time of the war in heaven were the rulers of real space, star gods of near limitless power. This power was matched only by their cosmic hunger. The bargain they posed to the Silent King was accepted, and their dominion over the Necrontyr all but assured, or so they believed. Devouring their souls with reckless abandon, they did not foresee their fate until it was too late. Zarek's revenge upon these beings saw them shattered by weapons that employed incredible cosmic energies. Yet the Catan were bound to reality itself, and so could never be destroyed, only splintered into stunted echoes of their former might. Each such shard is still terrifyingly powerful, however, and so the Necrons bound them into extra-dimensional prisons known as Tesseract Labyrinths. And so they remain in the 41st millennium, technologically shackled and leashed without independent thought, forced to serve those that they once commanded. One may be unfortunate to face the shard of the Void Dragon, upon which these shards fill the air around them with a searing scream of distorted static. With but a gesture, they can obliterate the war engines of lesser races, dragging the resultant disintegrating matter into each shard, akin to a gravitic pull of a black hole. Every once in a while, a Catan may break its straining fetters. At such times, devastating retribution is visited upon the Necrons and their foes alike. Inquisitor's Log, Designation, Ordo Xenos, Subject, the Emperor, and the Void Dragon. It is oft not the case that any foe terrifies myself or my kin within the Ordos. However, the shards of the Catan are one such exception to this rule. The Inquisitorial Rosette allows the commission of many important writings, the scribes having passed upon the history of one such Void Dragon. A small musing from one adept Semyon. I listen to its impotent roars of hatred as it watches from its jail on Mars, and write what comes out. But truth, as of all things, is a moving target. There are murmurings within the Ordos that one such shard resides upon Mars, its powers leashed, heretical technologies produced by the cult Mechanicus, and its influence far too pervasive upon their peoples. Did the God Emperor in fact battle a shard of these Catan? And if so, why would he have not banished it beyond the purview of Holy Terror? Gallery 23, Exhibit 08, Shadow upon the Stars. Time and again, the Necrons descend from the heavens to conquer unwary worlds. Fleets of tomb ships enable the Necron to bridge interstellar gulfs almost as quickly as warp travel, and in a significantly safer fashion. Terrifying sepulchral battleships of immense size, tomb ships can easily duel the greatest voidcraft of the lesser races. Yet their greatest value is undoubtedly in spearheading Necron planetary conquest. Even a single tomb ship in low orbit above an enemy world will deploy wave after wave of war engines against its foe, even as its quantum wormhole technologies open the way for invading Necron foot soldiers to assail the enemy in their millions. The Necrons may also utilize dolmen gates as a method of hyper-technological invasion. Living stone arches, these span spars of the webway, allowing the Necrons the ability to travel through them. They must be swift, however, as even subjugated the semi-sentient network resists and will destroy the Necrons if it can. Engrammatic memory, Triarch Praetorian 4, encoding announced. The Silent King and his dynasties. Last of the Silent Kings, Shatterer of the Star Gods, Defeater of the Old Ones, Bringer of Unity, Master of the Final Triarch, Wielder of the Scepter of Eternal Glory. Few beings in the galaxy possess the power, wisdom, and far-reaching vision of Zarek, last of the Silent Kings. During the nightmarish crucible of biotransference, it was Zarek who emerged clad in the most advanced and exalted form ever bestowed upon the Necron race. His body is a triumph of impossible artifice. His neurological and sensory architecture entirely synthetic, yet more precise, more refined than any organic mind could ever hope to achieve. His form moves with flawless grace, each gesture measured and absolute, radiating an authority that is both irresistible and terrifying. Neither sickness nor decay can touch him. Several data slates within the Ordo Xenos branch of the Inquisition on many hive worlds show that neither physical degradation nor mental corruption has ever claimed the Silent King. Unlike so many of his kind, Zarek did not endure the long purgatory of the Great Sleep, nor the ravages of fractured revivification. His mind remains wholly his own, untouched, sovereign, and complete. He was their ruler before the fall, and so he remains still. Since the moment he grasped the true horror of what he had done, of the purgatory to which he had condemned his people. Zarek has known no peace. Millennia have passed into legend and legend into dust, yet his guilt endures unchanged. It has not faded with time, nor dulled with distance. His sorrow remains sharp, with his horror perfectly preserved within an immortal mind incapable of forgetting. These torments have not broken him. Instead, they have honed him into a being of singular, unyielding purpose. Zarek has a plan. For his people, and for the galaxy itself. He believes in his own righteousness with the cold, absolute certainty of a god. He seeks no dominion for its own sake, nor glory, nor worship. He seeks atonement, a singular and final redemption for the crime of biotransference and the damnation of the Necron race. If time and strife have failed to erode his enemies, if eons of his tragedy have not destroyed them, then he will seize control of the galaxy through deathless legions and weapons born of cosmic annihilation. He will find a means to undo biotransference. He will erase his sin or burn the stars in the attempt. To this end, upon his return to the galaxy aboard his city-sized warship, the Song of Oblivion, Zarek revealed himself once more to his people. From among the surviving dynasties, he selected 2 pharaons of proven loyalty, rulers of lesser realms whose ambition would not eclipse his forced obedience. Their legions were subsumed into his own, and they were elevated beyond all others. Hapthatra, the Radiant, and Mesophet of the Shadowed Hand. Together with Zarek, they formed the final Triarch, ruling not from thrones of stone, but from the hovering dais of dominion. Henceforth, they would be known as the Pharaons of the Stars and of the Blades, eternal companions to the Silent King. The martial might of the final Triarch is beyond reproach. The dais itself is powered by a caged shard of Nyadrazatha, the Burning One, with its bound essence screaming silently within. Zarek's mantle is fashioned from the Flent's necrodermis of the Catan, its surface alive with imprisoned cosmic fire. Through his scepter of eternal glory, the Silent King channels the Burning One's wrath into searing beams of annihilation. That same energy feeds the carrier wave generators of the dais, which coordinate and drive Necron legions to flawless unity, and is projected through towering Noctilith beacons that banish the corruption of the warp. These same structures allow passage into the hidden skeins of the webway, forming temporary dolmen gates that carry the Triarch across interstellar gulfs in moments. A trans-temporal field shrouds the Triarch, scattering enemy attacks across fractured moments of time. And when confronted by foes of truly immeasurable power, Zarek unleashes the Annihilator Beam, focusing the combined resonance of the Triarch into a weapon that strikes with the force of a god's spear. In the long ages of his absence, many dynasties whispered of his flight. Detractors such as Imhotep, the Stormlord, and Zarathus the Ineffable claim that Zarek fled to escape the weight of his crimes. Others believe he departed with greater purpose. The war in heaven shattered countless dynasties, and the Great Sleep finished what war began. Entire lineages were erased by time, while others endured only to awaken embittered and diminished. Even now, countless dynasties persist, each ruling its own tomb worlds, clinging to ancient heraldry, cultural traditions, and distinct doctrines of war. Some believe Zarek wandered the lightless void beyond the galactic rim, or even ventured into other galaxies, seeking a cure for biotransference itself. Whatever the truth, it was the rising menace of the Tyranids that drew the Song of Oblivion back toward the Milky Way. For should all life be devoured, there would be nothing left to save. Inquisitor's Log. Designation: Ordo Xenos. Subject: the Silent King. I recall the solar year that I was notified of that fateful meeting of the sons of the Great Angel and the return of the Silent King. Inquisitorial conclaves may be rare, but for such an occurrence, nothing less would have sufficed. I gave testimony, for my expertise in the matter is often sought. At such time, I lamented the sons, for they had the chance to act and did not just fail to remove such a threat, but acted in concord with the Xenos. But today, I consider the technologies of the Necron may be of vital import in repelling the great enemy with the Noctilith, and its understanding as known to the Necron may be the only way to ensure our survival. Others within the Conclave preach the merits of this webway, my knowledge of such technologies being subservient to others who find fashion with their study of the Eldari. What I can say is this: the Tyrannid threat may be the greatest posed to the Imperium, beyond that of the great enemy, and I cannot fault Dante for his choices that day. Our great empire is beset on all sides, and we may have to make some calculations, other deemed distasteful or even heretical at times. But for the good of the God Emperor and the Imperium, I would make any such trade. Engrammatic memory, reading 4. Triarch Praetorian 4, encoding announced. Words of the Silent King. Kneel, humans, he commanded. Kneel before mighty Serek, last and greatest of the Silent Kings. The visible half of Tycho's face appeared unimpressed. He rested his thumbs at his belt and tilted his head. We will not. He is not our king. The Judicator Prime bristled, but did not repeat himself. Instead, he turned solemnly and sank to one knee. The move was echoed first by the masked nobles, then by their retainers, and then by every other Necron warrior upon the dais and beyond. Again as one, they knelt, except for one figure. He was taller than the rest, yet not as tall as I had imagined he might be. His mechanical body was a work of unspeakable Xenos artifice, more finely wrought than any I had ever seen upon the field of battle. Where they might be skeletal, he was lithe. Where they were animated with grim, unyielding purpose, his every movement possessed an undeniable vitality. His form spoke of musculature and clean-limbed strength, perhaps touched by the divine, and his finery was simple, and yet impossibly elegant. His face, though, brothers, I can scarcely put into words what I felt in that moment, what all three of us must have felt. It was not reverence or awe, I can tell you that much. It was closer to hatred, framed by a cowl of shimmering light and the traceries of his intricate collar. Zarek, heralded as the last and greatest of the Silent Kings, and undisputed overlord of the Necron race, wore a golden mask fashioned into the likeness of our Lord Sanguinius. A rank blasphemy, indeed. The humans were surprised. Their flesh forms took time to process what they were seeing, though it clearly stirred their indoctrinated racial hatreds at a fundamental and subconscious level. The Judicator Prime was the first to rise, transmitting a subetheric signal to the Praetorians to be ready. No matter that they had sent the Dante Angel and the Tycho Angel, their most respected battle leaders, as a gesture of good faith. The human warrior castes can be unpredictable and nihilistic when pressed, and may act illogically in the face of insult or overwhelming adversity. We may speak more of this later, Lord Anrakir. After all, you will need allies. Learn their strengths as well as their weaknesses, and turn all to your advantage. Wise Sarek knew this. He saw the truth of it when first he encountered the humans squatting upon the tombs of the dynasties and the ruins of the Eldari Empire. They believed that their stars were in the ascendant and that they would soon conquer the galaxy. Of course, this was not to be. It will never be. It cannot be. It is curious what the humans choose to know of their past and what remains unremembered. They do not heed the lessons that they have already learned because they often elect to forget them. Perhaps, had he not fallen to illogical and prideful infighting, their Sanguinius angel might have steered them towards a more enlightened destiny. Certainly, he would have made a more amenable emperor than a preserved witch corpse. If ever there were a human to be mourned, noble Sarek would say that it was him. That alliance, the first alliance, perhaps, might have ended the threat of the Devourer before it ever surfaced. At least, the Tyrannids might never have been drawn to this galaxy in the first instance. Like the humans, The Silent King was blind to this possibility at the time. But unlike the humans, he is humble enough to learn from his own mistakes. The High Chronomancer's temporal mastery merely afforded him the insight that he required and the opportunity to prepare a new truth for them. The chapter master's grip tightened around the golden helm in his hands, and he quaked with a barely suppressed fury. This time, I saw Captain Tycho's fist clenching, although he too managed to restrain himself. We had to see how this would play out before doing anything premature. Dante looked from his own mask, the death mask of Sanguinius, holiest relic of the chapter, to the benign alien representation of the Primarch worn by the Silent King. The similarities were astonishing, brothers. Though elongated and curiously more androgynous, the features were mournful and angelic in the way that every blood angel knew and recognized even from the first day of their Adeptus Astartes induction. The proud and noble brow, the suggestion of tumbling hair swept back from the face, even the stylized halo-crowned Zarek, just as it did the commander. But where Dante's mask was crafted into a defiant, righteous battle snarl, this was Sanguinius at his most benevolent and peaceful, the face of a king, a ruler supreme, more beautiful perhaps than any sculpture or cast had any right to be that was not the work of human hands, though it pricked at my soul to admit it. Dante's blood was up. Finally, he found his voice. How dare? Ignoring the commander's outrage, the Judicator Prime spoke again in his strident and uncaring tone. Dante of the Blood Angels, the Silent King bids you welcome. None among us shall harm you while you respect the sanctity of this court. Captain Tycho's eyes widened, and he looked to me in disbelief. The Silent King remained still, regarding us all with the eyes of our Primarch. Through gritted teeth, Dante cursed. Your Silent King had best learn to speak and explain to me why he insults us with this mockery of our Lord Sanguinius. It is a travesty, and I shall not suffer it. If he thinks to make his demands more pleasant by skinning them in the face of our holy founder. This is not so, Dante of the Blood Angels, said the herald. Mighty Zarek, last and greatest of the Silent Kings, honors your angel father and the accord that we wish to strike with him in ages past. Numbness spread through my chest at these words. Even Dante twitched. That is a lie, he murmured. Our gene-sire would never have treated with Xenos filth. The Silent King cannot lie, Dante of the Blood Angels, for he does not speak. He will not speak, not to you, but your angel father would have seen the wisdom in this alliance, and we hope that you will also. The Tyranids are coming, whether you or we choose to remain or not. The conflict between us was an error. Our success has already been calculated.